So today we'll be discussing swap instruction, SWI instruction, and program status register instruction. So first coming to swap instruction. What is the purpose of swap instruction and how actually the swap instruction works? So what are the mnemonics supported with respect to swap instruction and what is the application of swap instruction? That's what we are going to discuss. Okay. So swap instruction, as I just mentioned, it's a special case of load store instruction. Okay. What it does is it swaps the contents of memory with the contents of register. So swap, you know that so far we have come across load store instruction to perform memory access. So load to fetch the data from the memory and store to write the data to the memory. So there is a special instruction called swap instruction, so which is also used to perform the swap operation between the processor register and the memory. You can swap word data between processor register and the memory or byte data between processor register and the memory. So this is the special instruction supported in ARM. For what purpose? For swapping the contents of memory with the contents of register. So both read write operation we are able to perform in the same bus operation. So that's why we say the swap is an atomic operation, meaning it reads and writes a location in the same bus, so preventing any other instruction from reading or writing to that location until it completes the operation. Okay, swapping what it does, content of memory will be swapped with content of register. So that means we need to read from the memory and we have to just write the data held in the register to the memory, and whatever data available in the memory has to be written to the register. So both read and write operation is performed on the same bus operation. That's why we say swap as the atomic operation. Okay. So coming to the syntax of writing swap instruction, this is the syntax. The mnemonic used is SWP. Okay, SWP stands for swap. And as you know that whatever you specify within pair of libraries, it is optional in the instruction. You can suffix letter B to the swap instruction. And what is the meaning? You can guess. That is, if you want to perform byte transfer between the memory and the register, in that case, you have to suffix letter B to the swap mnemonic. Okay. So if you simply use SWP, that means word transfer takes place between the memory and the register. If you are suffixing letter B to the instruction, then it is byte transfer between the memory and the register. And then you can also specify the condition attribute to this instruction. This is also allowed. And these are the three operands you are going to specify to the swap instruction: destination register RD, RM, the source register, and RN, which acts as a pointer to the memory location from where the data is to be fetched or to where the data is to be written. So this is the syntax of writing swap instruction. So what is the syntax? The mnemonic used is SWP, meaning swap. B, for byte transfer between the register and the memory. We can also suffix condition attribute. B and condition attribute are optional in the instruction. It's a three operand instruction where first operand in the swap is the destination register, second operand is the source register, and third operand is the memory operation we are specifying, where Rn is a pointer to the memory location from where the data is to be fetched or to where the data is to be written. Okay. So this table you can see where the two types of swap instructions supported we have written. SWP is one mnemonic and SWPB is another mnemonic. So what SWP does, it swaps a word between memory and the register. That is 32-bit transfer takes place between memory and the register. SWPB, it swaps byte between the memory and the register. Okay. And in the last column in this table, what you are seeing is using temporary register, the swapping takes place. So you know the three statements in C, what you write for swapping. So if two variables you are having, if you want to swap the contents of one variable, that is the two variables, then what you are doing, you are going to write the three statements. Temp is equal to say A equals B, and B equals to temp. So same operation is performed using the temporary register here within the processor. That is temp is equal to 32-bit data from the address held in Rn. Okay, from the memory, 32-bit data is fetched, that is stored in temp, and then whatever is there in the source register Rn. Okay, so that we are writing to the memory location whose address is held in Rn register, and whatever we had saved in temp, that is written to the destination register. So this is how the swapping takes place between the processor register and the memory. So if you just suffix letter B to the swap instruction, in that case 8-bit transfer takes place, exchange takes place between the memory and the processor register. Okay. So what you have to note in the swap instruction is, so the swap instruction cannot be interrupted by any other instruction or any other bus access. So what we can say in other words is, so the swap instruction, it holds the bus until the transaction is complete. So until that, so any other instruction cannot interrupt this operation. So once read write operation is completed, then only it can release the bus. Okay. So this is about swap instruction. So we shall see with respect to these two mnemonics, two examples on swap instruction. Okay. Consider the first example, that is to load a word from memory into register R0 and overwrite the memory with register R1. So this is what the operation you have to perform. So we shall see the precondition. So 32-bit data at address 9000H, we have considered it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then R0 is having the value 0. R1 is initialized with value 4 ones and 4 twos. Then R2 register is having this address, and in our instruction we are taking R2 as a pointer to the memory location whose data is to be exchanged. Okay, and this is the swap instruction we are going to write. So as per the question, what we have to do, so we have to load a word from the memory to which register. So it is R0 register. So R0 is the destination register in the swap instruction you have to take. Okay, so that's what we have done here. Swap is a 3 operand instruction. SWP is the mnemonic space. As per the question, it is R0, the destination. So whatever you fetch from the memory, that has to be transferred to R0 register. And then whatever the data you're having in R1 register, that data we have to write to the address held in R2. Okay. So this is what the write operation we are doing to the memory. So R1 is the source register, R0 is the destination register, and here R2 is acting as a pointer to the memory location to perform the read write operation. Okay. So after execution of the swap instruction, what is the post condition you are going to get? Just see what will be the memory content at address 9000H. Whatever is there in R1, that will be written to the memory location at address 9000H. So what is there in R1? The source register. It is 4 1 followed by that 4 twos here. So this data you'll find at address 9000H, and R1 content is the source register that will not be altered. Okay, and you can see R0 register, what it is having, it is the data that is fetched from the memory at address 9000H. So content of the memory location 9000H is written to R0 register, and whatever is there in R1 register, that we are writing to the address held in R2 register, that is 9000H. To that address the data is written. So this is what the post condition you are going to get. The R2 pointer is not changed, and you can observe R1 content is not changed since R1 is the source operand in the instruction, whereas R0 and the memory location 9000H are altered. Okay. So coming to one more example, load a byte from the memory into register R1 and overwrite the memory with register R1. Okay, that is read and write operation to the same register we want to perform. In the previous example, we saw R1 as the source register whose content we are writing to the memory, and whatever we fetch from the memory we are writing to another register, that is the destination register R0. But in this example, we want both source and destination operand as R1 register. So what can be the swap instruction? As per the question, it is the byte operation we have to perform. So swap B is the mnemonic you have to consider. SWP B is the complete mnemonic. Then source and destination operands are the register R1, R2. Okay. So R1 comma R1 comma you have to specify, and then you need to take a pointer to the memory location. So how actually we have written the precondition and the instruction we'll see here. Since it is 8-bit exchange, here in the syntax we have written it as, in the precondition, mem8, meaning 8-bit data starting from address 9000H. So this is what the 8-bit data we have considered. it is AB. Okay, and coming to R0 register content, here R0 we are taking it as a pointer to the address 9000H, and R1 is having assumed this data 56783412, and if this instruction is executed, that is swap B R1 comma R1 comma content of R0. So what happens once this instruction is executed? The swap takes place between the memory and the register R1. So whatever is fetched from the memory, so starting at address 9000H, that 8-bit data, that is ABH, that is transferred to R1 register. And in the R1 register, what is the least significant byte you are having? So that least significant byte, that gets transferred to the memory location at address 9000H. So once a byte data is fetched from the memory to the register, so higher order bit locations values will be 0. It is treated as unsigned byte transfer. So only ABH is written to the least significant byte location in the R1 register, and rest other will be replaced with the that is value 0. So since it is treated as an unsigned number. So what is the final content in R1 register? If you just check out, just observe memory, the 8-bit data at address 9000H is 0x12. So what is this 0x12? This is the least significant byte data what you are having in the R1 register. You know, R1 is a 32-bit register. We are trying to exchange 8-bit data between the processor register and the memory. So which 8-bit data in R1 register is taken? It is the least significant byte data. Okay, 12H is taken in the R1 register, and that is written to the address 9000H. So in 9000H, what was the data present? It was ABH. That will be written to the R1 register, and higher order locations in the R1 register will be 0. Okay, this is what the operation perform. If you are fetching lower size data from the memory to the register, then in that case, so whether it is treated as unsigned data or signed data, based on that, sign extension takes place to the higher order bits in the register. So here it is treated as unsigned, where higher order locations in the R1 register, it is taken as all zeros. Okay, so this will be the final content in R1 register. An R2 register, it is a pointer, it is not affected. It is same as whatever you had before execution. It is 9000H pointing. Okay, these are two examples to show you how swap instruction works. So which are the two mnemonics with respect to swap? SWP for word transfer between, or word exchange between the processor register and the memory. Okay, and SWPB for transferring byte between the processor register and the memory. So in addition to load store instruction, so this is a special instruction supported in ARM for performing the read and write operation in the same bus operation. Okay, and coming to one more important example, and it is the application of a swap instruction that we'll see in the next slide. Okay, this is the application of swap instruction. It is especially used when you are implementing semaphores and mutual exclusion in an operating system. Okay, semaphore, what for you are using. So if you want to control the access to the common resources that are shared by multiple processes, then you are going for the semaphore concept. So this is just a simple implementation in this slide what we are seeing for just checking whether the resource is being released by the process or not. So until the process releases the resource, so this routine will be keep on executed infinitely. Okay, so we shall just check. So that's what I mentioned in this slide. So this example shows a simple data guard that can be used to protect the data from being written by another task or another process. So the swap instruction is going to hold the bus until the transaction is complete. Okay, so only after the process is complete, the resource will be released here. So just observe here, this is the name of the loop given, spin, and semaphore. So actually the address pointed to by the semaphore, that is loaded to R1 register, move R1 comma equal semaphore. So actually it should be LDR instruction, but in your textbook it is the move instruction given. If you write LDR R1 comma equal semaphore, that is also Fine. Okay. And then R2 register is initialized with value 1, and this is a swap instruction used. Swap R3 comma R2 comma content of R1. Okay, so what happens is, in this case, whatever the resource that is used by another process, so it will be when the semaphore value is equal to 1. So this memory location value can be either 0 or 1. Okay, so the semaphore memory location value can be either 0 or 1. So if it is 1 means, so what is the meaning is, the process, the resource is being used by the process. Okay, and the other process cannot make use of that resource. So until the semaphore value becomes 0, it cannot make use of that resource. Okay, that is the meaning. So just see swap R3 comma R2 comma content of R1. So if semaphore value is 1, in that case, what is written to R3 register? It is value 1. So then we are comparing R3 with hash 1. So if it is equal, that means if R3 value is equal to 1, in that case, what is the interpretation? The resource is being used by another process, then the other process has to wait. So see, so BEQ spin. So this loop will be keep on executed. So until whatever the resource that is used by another process is released, meaning once the semaphore value becomes 0, in that case, what we can interpret is the resource is being released. So other process can make use of that resource. Okay. So this is the application of swap instruction. It is used in the operating system for implementing semaphores and mutual exclusion. So in this example, what you are seeing is a memory location semaphore whose address we have written in R1 register, and R2 is loaded with hash 1, and we are seeing the swap instruction executed, which holds the bus until it completes the execution, and we are comparing R3 with hash 1. So if R3 value is 1, that means the resource is being used by another process. So once semaphore value becomes 0, then 0 will be returned to R3 register, so that that particular resource is being released, so that other process can make use of that resource. So that is the meaning. So this is about swap instruction. So what are the points you have to remember with respect to swap instruction? So swap instruction is a special type of load store instruction supported in ARM. Okay, and what for swap instruction is used? So for exchanging the data between the processor register and the memory, we are using swap instruction. Two mnemonics are supported: swap and swap B, that is SWP and SWPB. So SWP is used for word exchange between the processor register and the memory. SWPB is for byte exchange between the memory and the processor register. Each is a 3 operand instruction. Okay, you can suffix the condition attribute to these instructions. Okay, so based on if whatever the condition is specified, based on that the instruction will be executed if that condition is satisfied. And the important application of swap instruction is in implementing semaphores and mutual exclusion in an operating system. The swap instruction is used. So this is about swap instruction. So coming to the next category of instruction, that is software interrupt instruction. So this is one of the instructions supported in ARM. So what happens when SWI, the instruction mnemonic is SWI. So what happens when SWI instruction is executed, and what is the effect of execution of SWI instruction? That is how the processor responds to this SWI instruction. A few example, just one example we'll discuss, and what are the points you have to remember with respect to SWI instruction, that we'll discuss. Okay, and once SWI instruction is executed, to which mode the processor enters? If anyone can recall, SWI is the software interrupt instruction. Once software interrupt instruction is executed, then what kind of exception occurs, and to which mode the processor enters? Anyone?
I'm supervisor, I think.
Yes, very good. It is supervisor mode. So there are 7 processor modes, right? So if you can recall that first unit, whatever we had discussed, there are 7 processor modes. Which are those 7 processor modes? User mode, system mode, abort mode, undefined mode, supervisor mode, FIQ mode, and IRQ mode. So these are the 7 processor modes. And you know that there are 7 exceptions in ARM. Which are those 7 exceptions? Reset exception, IRQ, FIQ exception, software interrupt exception, data abort, prefetch abort, and undefined instruction. So these are the 7 exceptions or interrupts in ARM. And you know that user and system mode, they don't need any exception to enter the mode. They are auto invoked. But other 5 modes what you are having, that is the other 5 modes, meaning abort, undefined, supervisor, FIQ, and IRQ. So these modes, they require interrupt or exception to enter, right? Say for example, if you say IRQ, if the IRQ exception is entered, or IRQ exception occurs, in that case the processor enters into IRQ mode. So FIQ exception, it makes the processor enter the FIQ mode. Okay, and this data abort and prefetch abort, these two exceptions, they make the processor enter abort mode. So what about reset and software interrupt exception? So these two exceptions, they make the processor enter supervisor mode. Okay, so there is a special instruction and user defined interrupt instruction that is supported in ARM. So which makes a software interrupt exception to occur, or changes the mode to the supervisor mode. Okay, so that's what I've listed here. A software interrupt instruction, the mnemonic used is SWI. So it causes a software interrupt exception, which actually provides a mechanism for applications to call operating system routines. So for calling OS routines, this is the instruction that is used, that is SWI, which in turn causes SWI, that is software interrupt exception, which changes the mode of the processor to supervisor mode. Okay. Coming to the syntax of writing SWI instruction. So SWI is the mnemonic use, and the condition attribute is optional. You can specify in the instruction. Followed by that, you are going to specify the SWI number. See, for each of the software interrupt instruction, so it is having an SWI number associated that tells the particular function or feature what is to be performed. Okay, so that feature or function is indicated through the software interrupt number. Say some debugging operation is to be performed, so that there will be a separate SWI number which is to be used in the SWI instruction. So for each of the functionality, there will be a separate number. Okay, that is called as the software interrupt number. So that number has to be specified in the SWI instruction. So far what we have seen, so SWI is an user defined interrupt instruction supported in ARM. So what it causes is, it causes a software interrupt exception to occur, which actually changes the mode of the processor to supervisor mode. So what is the syntax of writing SWI instruction? SWI space SWI number we are going to specify. Okay. So once this instruction is executed, software interrupt exception occurs. So how actually the processor is going to handle this exception? So how it responds to this exception? So that's what you are seeing in this table. So SWI instruction, once it is executed, so these are all the operations that is performed by the processor. Okay, just try to analyze here. You know that in the supervisor mode, we are having the link register. So LR underscore SVC, that is the link register in the supervisor mode. What it contains is return address. LR register is the link register which saves the return address. So what happens once this SWI instruction is executed? So these are the operations that are performed, or this is how the processor is going to respond to this SWI exception. It is going to copy the CPSR content, okay, current program status register content, to SPSR. So just observe here in the second line, in the third column, you can observe SPSR underscore SVC is equal to CPSR. So CPSR content will be copied to SPSR in the supervisor mode. And what about the link register? So link register of supervisor mode, what it contains is the return address. So what is this return address? So the address of the instruction after SWI. Okay. So wherever SWI instruction is there, the next instruction address that is called as the return address, that will be saved in the link register of the supervisor mode. Okay. This is another operation, and the mode bits in the CPSR will be changed so that the processor can enter into the supervisor mode, and it also disables the interrupt mask bit. So that is IRQ interrupt, that is the seventh bit in the CPSR will be made 1. So that means, you know, you're writing a 1 to this I bit, meaning it is that interrupt is disabled. Okay, it is going to disable the interrupt, and PC will be loaded with the vector address. So what address PC will be loaded with? So since the processor is going to enter the supervisor mode, if you can just recall that the address what we had discussed for a software interrupt exception. So this topic actually we had discussed while we were discussing exceptions, interrupts and vector table. So for software interrupt exception, what is the vector address that is considered is 08H. So 08H is the vector address that will be loaded to the program counter. You know that vector table, it can be stored either at the lower address in the memory, or it may be at the higher address. Two set of addresses we had discussed while we were discussing the vector table. So for each of the exception, what vector address is loaded to the program counter, so that the control can be transferred to a special branch instruction or special load instruction. So that in turn takes the control to the ISR to service that interrupt. Special routine, that is interrupt service routine, is to be executed. So for that, a special branch instruction address will be available in the vector table. So for software interrupt exception, it is 0x08. So this is the vector address that is considered. Okay. So once this PC is loaded with this address, so then control will be transferred to a location where a special code for finding out what interrupt service routine is to be executed for servicing that interrupt. So that special code is called as software interrupt handler. So that software interrupt handler will be executed. So which will be finding out which service routine is to be called, so that it can service that particular interrupt. So this is what the process involved whenever SWI instruction is executed. What are the steps? Once SWI instruction is executed, it causes software interrupt exception. So how the processor is going to respond to the software interrupt exception? The CPSR content will be copied to SPSR of supervisor mode. The link register of supervisor mode will be loaded with the return address, that is the address of the instruction after SWI. Then the mode will be changed to supervisor. The mode bits in the CPSR will be altered so that it will be the supervisor mode. Interrupt bit will be disabled. That means one will be returned to the I bit in the CPSR register, so that it is going to mask the IRQ interrupt, and then PC will be loaded with the vector address. Okay, this is actually the handler address, that is the software interrupt handler address. So that will be loaded to the PC. So for software interrupt exception, this is the address 0x08. So this is what the operations performed whenever SWI instruction is executed. So in turn, what the software interrupt handler will do is, it is going to find out what software interrupt number is used in the SWI instruction. Based on what functionality that has to perform, accordingly it is going to invoke the ISR, interrupt service routine. So before that, software interrupt handler is going to save some of the register content onto the stack, and after invoking the appropriate ISR, once the control comes back from the ISR, so the software interrupt handler is going to restore back the contents, and it resumes the execution. So this is what happens. That's what I've explained in this slide. So when the processor executes an SWI instruction, it sets the PC to the offset 0x08 in the vector table, and the instruction also forces the processor mode to SVC, which allows an operating system routine to be called in the privileged mode. And each SWI instruction, as I told, it is associated with an SWI number, which is used to represent a particular functionality or a feature. Coming to one example here. So this is one simple example on SWI instruction. with the SWI number used as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is actually used by ARM toolkits as a debugging software interrupt. Okay, so this is the interrupt number for debugging. Okay, and coming to this precondition here. So yes, CPSR is initialized with this value NZC, capital V you can observe, and QIFT underscore USR. So this is the current state of the CPSR register, and PC assume this is the address it is having, and LR register is having say this address. These are all just the preconditions specified, and assume R0 is having some data, and if this instruction is executed, SWI, see just observe this instruction. It is SWI software interrupt instruction, and this is the software interrupt number we are using. This is the syntax of writing SWI instruction. Mnemonic use is SWI, followed by that you are going to specify the SWI number which represents a particular functionality. As an example we have taken, it is debugging software interrupt. Okay, so for that, what is the number? Software interrupt number, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is the address. So this is the address where SWI instruction is stored in the memory. So 0x000008 followed by 40. This address it tells where actually SWI instruction is available in the memory. Okay. So what is the post condition after execution of this instruction? What is the post condition? Can anyone tell? What will be the post condition? What will be the status of SPSR register? Whatever is there in CPSR will be copied to SPSR. Okay, just see SPSR of the supervisor mode will be having the content of CPSR. So just see, this is what the in the precondition the CPSR content. So that CPSR content you will find in SPSR, NZC, VCAP, then QIFT underscore USR. The mode is user mode. So this is what the status saved in the SPSR register. And what will be the CPSR content? You know that the mode bits in the CPSR will be changed to supervisor mode. That is one change you are seeing in the CPSR. And I is for interrupt mask bit. Okay, seventh bit in the CPSR is IRQ bit. That is, if its status were to be 1, that means that particular interrupt is disabled. So whenever an interrupt occurs, before servicing that particular interrupt, the interrupt will be masked or disabled. So for that, you can see I bit is written in caps. You know, if a letter is in caps in the CPSR in the post condition, what you can infer, that particular bit status is 1, meaning that interrupt is disabled. Okay, and this is the SPSR content, and PC, you know, it will be loaded with the vector address for software interrupt exception. It is 0x08, and LR register, what it will be having, this is LR of supervisor mode. So link register of supervisor mode, what it contains is the next instruction address. So this is the current instruction being executed, SWI instruction. What is the next instruction address? It is 8004, correct? So each instruction, you know, it is 4-byte instruction or 32-bit instruction in ARM. SWI is also a 32-bit instruction. So while executing this instruction, what is the next instruction address? It is 8004. So this return address will be in the LR register, and R0 is having the value 0x12. So that means whenever ISR is to be executed, in that case, the software interrupt handler can make use of the registers in the processor for passing some parameters. So here as an example, we have taken just R0 register. So whatever the parameter it wants to pass, some data that can be passed through registers. Okay. So this is what the pre-condition and post-condition you are seeing. So what analysis you can make in the on this pre and post condition for SWI instruction is, so once SWI instruction is executed, processor enters into supervisor mode. How it enters into supervisor mode is based on the exception. So what exception this SWI causes? It is software interrupt exception that is caused, which makes the processor enter into supervisor mode. So current CPSR content will be saved into SPSR, and PC will be loaded with 08, that is the vector address for software interrupt exception. LR register will be loaded with the LR of supervisor mode, that will be loaded with the return address, which is the address of next instruction after SWI. Okay, and in the CPSR, these are the modification done. The mode bits in the CPSR will be changed to supervisor. I think it is 13H that will be loaded to the least significant 5 bits in the CPSR to change the mode to supervisor. And interrupt, 7th bit in the CPSR will be disabled. The disabled means 1 will be returned to this bit in the CPSR. So this is what the operation performs. So as I told, okay, so once the PC is loaded with 08, then the next instruction is to be fetched from this address. So whatever PC holds, that is the address from where the instruction is fetched. Okay. So what it contains, if you go to that address, what you find is a code that is called as software interrupt handler. So this is required for finding out which interrupt service routine is to be executed. Okay. So just see here, a code called SWI handler is required to process this SWI call. So this handler, it is going to find out the software interrupt number using the address of the executed instruction, which is calculated from link register. So that means what this software interrupt handler will do is it tries to calculate the SWI number from the SWI instruction. So how actually it does that? What instructions you commonly find in the software interrupt handler that we are seeing in this slide. Okay, so just see here how it determines the software interrupt number. So that is this formula is given here. SWI number is given by the software interrupt instruction, that address is taken, and we are performing AND operation and NOT operation with 0xF followed by 6 zeros. So what is this and NOT operation with SWI instruction? That we'll see here with an example. Okay. So this example shows the start of an SWI handler implementation. You can see SWI handler store the registers R0 to R12 and the link register. So before proceeding further, the software interrupt handler is going to save the register contents onto the stack. Okay. So why it is saving this register R0 to R12 to the stack? Why not R13, R14? Why not other registers? Can anyone tell why only R12 till R0 to R12? Yes.
Because other registers are special purpose.
Other registers are one important terminology you have to recall while we were discussing
And
first
banked
unit.
registers.
Very good, banked registers. So that means there are additional registers, right? When the mode changes, those registers will be active. So the registers will be active based on the mode in which the processor is currently in, right? So here R0 to R12 registers, these are the registers that the software interrupt handler is going to save. So other registers, that is the LR underscore SVC, SP underscore SVC, these registers are available in the supervisor mode. Its own link register and stack pointer registers are available in the SVC. So that is not saved in the stack. So that's why here this is the instruction that is used by the software interrupt handler for saving the registers R0 to R12. Okay, STMFD, SP0, R0 to R12, LR. So this is the operation performed. These register contents will be saved. Okay, and it's going to read the software interrupt instruction. So how to read the software interrupt instruction is LDR R10, content of LR, hash -4. So what is the meaning of this? What LR of SV, the supervisor mode contains? What LR contains of supervisor mode? Link register of supervisor mode? It contains the return address, right? So LR underscore SVC contains the return address, that is address of next instruction after SWI. Okay. So what we are trying to do is the software interrupt handler is trying to determine the software interrupt number, where the software interrupt number is given in the SWI instruction. So from the memory starting at address 8000H, if you can just see the previous slide, what is the address we have considered for SWI instruction? That is 8000H. So from this address, if you fetch this 32-bit instruction, so from which we have to fetch only this part, software interrupt number we have to fetch. Okay, so once we fetch this software interrupt number, then the software interrupt handler is going to use that number to invoke appropriate ISR, and after the control returns from the ISR, it restores back to the register status and it resumes the execution. So this is the operation performed by the software interrupt handler. First, it calculates the software interrupt number from the software interrupt instruction. How it does the calculation? First, it has to fetch this complete 32-bit binary data from the memory at address 8000H. In our example, we have taken the address as 8000H where software interrupt instruction is stored. Okay. So how actually it needs to fetch? From where it gets the address? How to get this address 8000? From where we need to fetch this 32-bit data? So that is taken by LR register. Once this instruction is called, SWI instruction is executed, the link register of supervisor mode will be loaded with just see 8004, right? If you subtract 4 from this 8004, what address you'll get? It is 8000H where SWI instruction is stored. Are you getting? So LR is having the return address. From this return address held in LR, if you subtract 4, what you'll get is 8000H, which is the address where SWI instruction is stored. So what we have to do, what this software interrupt handler will do is, just see, executes an LDR instruction. LDR R10, content of LR, hash -4. So this is the offset, the negative offset given to fetch the SWI instruction. So once this instruction is executed, what is stored in the R10 register? What gets stored in R10 register? The machine code for SWI instruction, yes or no? At address 8000H, you are having the machine code for SWI instruction. So what is the pattern that is stored for the SWI instruction is, see, SWI is a 32-bit instruction, and you don't get confused. SWI is a 32-bit instruction where, and you can suffix condition attribute to the SWI instruction. You know that. How many bits are reserved for specifying the condition attribute? How many bits? It is 4 bits, right? Bit 31 to bit 28, correct? 28, 29, 30, 31. These 4 bits, okay, in the machine code, they are reserved to indicate the condition attribute used in the instruction. And next 4 bits, they are not used. Their bit status will be always 1. Okay. So that is 20, 27, 26, 25, 24. So till 24 to 27, these 4 bits, they are not used. The bit status will be 1 in the machine code generated for SWI. The next 24 bits, what you are having, okay, so these 24 bits, they actually contain the software interrupt number. It's bit number 0 to bit 23. Okay, so SWI instruction is a 32-bit instruction. So this is the instruction template for SWI instruction. Okay, so this is the immediate data what you are having that indicates the SWI number. Okay, the immediate data which indicates SWI number. So 24 bit in the machine code, least significant 24 bit, that is used to represent the software interrupt number. Next higher order 4 bits are 1, and most significant 4 bits, they are used for condition attribute. So if you are using SWI, say EQ, so whatever the condition attribute you have used, accordingly in the machine code, the higher order 4 bits will be having the bit status. So this is about the SWI instruction. So it is not specified in your textbook. So for your information, I am telling. Okay. So SWI instruction is a 32-bit instruction where the more significant 4 bits are used for specifying the condition attribute in the machine code. Next lower order 4 bits will be always 1, and least significant 24 bits, they actually contain the software interrupt number whatever you have given in the SWI instruction. So the software interrupt handler, what it does is, first it fetches this 32-bit machine code from the memory. So how to get the address from where this 32-bit instruction is to be fetched? So this is what the instruction it executes. LDR R10 comma content of LR comma hash minus 4. So LR contains the return address. If you subtract 4 from that return address, you will get the SWI instruction address. So that instruction is fetched and it is transferred to R10 register. So what is the next step? So now we need to just mask higher order 8 bits. So these 8 bits are not required for us. So to get the or to extract the software interrupt number, only the least significant 24 bits are required. So how it is extracted? So this is what the instruction we are executing, that is BIC instruction. BIC R10 comma R10 comma hash 0x FF followed by 6 zeros. You know, whichever bit you need to mask, you are performing a big that is BIC operation, bit clear operation with 1. So what it does, it performs first NOT operation, then AND it with the data held in R10 register. So you know the working of bit clear and NOT and AND. So it first performs NOT operation with this immediate data and then ANDs that result with whatever the operand you have specified. So what is the operation performed? So finally it is going to mask in that machine code. Higher order 8 bits will be masked and least significant 24 bits will be retained as it is. Okay, that will give the software interrupt number into the R10 register. Okay. So that actually will be used by the handler for invoking appropriate interrupt service routine. And once the control comes back from the interrupt service routine, it restores back by executing LDM instruction and it just returns the control. So that's what the major instructions specified in this software interrupt handler. Okay. See? So this is what the instructions we have specified. STMFD will save the register contents to this stack. Okay. Then LDR R10 comma content of LR comma hash minus 4 will retrieve software interrupt instruction from the memory and stores it into R10 register. Then we need to mask the higher order 8 bits in that machine code. So for that we are using BIC instruction. So BIC R10 comma R10 comma this hash 0xFF followed by 6 zeros will do that operation, and then the interrupt handler will come to know the software interrupt number. So then it uses that number for calling appropriate service routine. So branch instruction gets executed. So after that, control gets transferred to the ISR, that is not shown here. So then once the interrupt is serviced, control comes back where the handler is going to restore back the register contents and then it resumes the execution. Okay, so this is what happens. Return address was in LR, so that will be copied to PC. Okay, it pops back the content to PC and it resumes the execution. So this is what the operation performed. Okay, so this is about software interrupt instruction. Okay, that's what I've specified here. Hope this is clear. Did I confuse you? Were you able to follow software interrupt instruction? Have you all followed? Which is the instruction used in ARM? It is SWI, the mnemonic used. Condition attribute is optional. And followed by that, you have to specify the software interrupt number. So for each of the functionality, there will be a separate software interrupt number. Once SWI instruction is executed, it is an user-defined interrupt instruction that is supported in ARM. So once this instruction is executed, software interrupt exception occurs. What is the response by the processor to this SWI instruction? So the CPSR content gets copied to SPSR. Then LR of supervisor mode will be having the return address. Then PC will be loaded with 08, the offset. Okay, and processor mode changes. The mode bits in the CPSR changes to supervisor mode, and I bit will be disabled, meaning the 1 will be returned to the I bit in the CPSR register. Okay, this is what the operation that takes place. Once the instruction is fetched at address 08, okay, it is a software interrupt handler that gets executed. So the software interrupt handler, what it does is it saves the registers R0 to R12 and LR to the memory, that is to the stack. After that, it tries to extract the software interrupt number from the software interrupt instruction, for which it executes an LDR instruction. Okay, anyway, LR will be having the next instruction address. If you subtract 4 from that address, you'll get the address of software interrupt instruction. So once that 32-bit machine code is fetched into a register, BIC instruction is executed to mask higher order 8 bits and retain lower order 24 bits in that machine code, and that number will be used by the software interrupt handler to invoke appropriate interrupt service routine. So branch takes place to the ISR by execution of BL instruction. So after the interrupt is serviced by execution of ISR, control is written back to the handler, which restore back the content of the registers, and it returns the control. It resumes the execution. So PC will be loaded back with the return address, or it restores back the return address, and it resumes the execution. So this is how software interrupt instructions executed, and it is handled by the processor. Okay, is it clear? Have you all followed? Were you all
Yes,
able
ma'am.
to follow?